Okay guys, so in today's video we're going to be talking about Uber stock and the latest Q4 2019 earnings report and their full fiscal year numbers, guys. So let's get right into it. So Uber is a stock that I was telling you guys about. I've made a couple videos in the past and I haven't been making as many videos as I have often because I wasn't feeling good. I was struggling with a cold, but so I'm feeling better now, so I'm planning on getting back on schedule. And one of the most important things I want to talk about during earnings season is Uber recent earnings. So you guys take a look at this stock. This is probably my second favorite holding that I have. Visa is my first. Visa and Uber, these are two companies that I use almost every single day, probably every single day, whether it's ordering a car, taxi, going somewhere around the city, or buying food or something, or using a Visa card to pay for my bills or things like that. So these are one of the stocks that I talk about where a lot of times, guys, you can find great investment ideas by just going through your own bank statements and seeing where your income is going, because actions are louder than words. So if you're spending your money on a certain product or service, that is a stamp of approval, and it would make sense to get some of those earnings back that you are spending with that company back as a stockholder. So one of the reasons why Uber stock is up so much today is they had a really positive Q4 earnings report. So let's just get right into it, guys. So here we go. So you can get all of this information. Just go to investor.uber.com. You can type it into Google. So let's take a look at the numbers. So revenue of 4.1 billion, growing 37% year over year. Gross bookings grew 4 billion to 18.1 billion, representing a 28% year over year growth. Uber Eats is growing 20%, 73% year over year. Let's see here. Now net losses are 1.1 billion. So that is one of the probably the negative takeaways from this quarterly report. But companies do this all the time. They give away coupons, they give away free rides. They spend as much money required to build up their customer base, and they want as many people using Uber, downloading the app, and using the service as well, because once people start using the service, they can take away those free coupons and those free rebates, and they're going to continue using the service into the future, kind of like what I'm doing. I've been using their services probably for the past year or so, and it's just become a part of my everyday lifestyle. So as we can see here, they have unrestricted cash equivalents of 11 billion. Eats was another loss. They've lost almost five. So out of the 1.1 billion they lost, almost half of it was on Uber Eats. So, but if you look at actually the rides revenue delivered a $740 million profit. So guys, one of the good things about the rides is that is still the core Uber audience. And Uber is a really smart company in markets that they feel they don't have an edge. They can't be like the number one player. They'll just simply sell their market, their company in that market that they're struggling in to a better positioned company, and then they end up acquiring a stake in that company that they sold it to. So that's a way for them to kind of control a stake, instead of saying, okay, I can't be the best player in that, I'll just invest in you because you're doing better. So let's just read what the CEO said. 2019 was a transformational year for Uber, and I'm gratified by our progress, steadily delivering against the commitments we made to our shareholders on a path of profitability. We recognize that the era of growth at all costs is over. In a world where investors increasingly demand not growth but profitable growth, we are well positioned to win through continuous innovation, excellent execution, and an unrivaled scale of our global platform. So guys, this is just some excellent news. And one of the things I really like about Uber, and I really like about this CEO, if I'm pronouncing his name right, Dara Khosrowshahi, is that he's really a shareholder first CEO. So many CEOs out there, they're just interested in increasing their salary, increasing their stock options, and kind of self-proclaimed accolades to their name, perhaps looking towards the next CEO job with a better pay and more benefits. But the one thing I like about this guy is that he is well invested in the company. The first thing he did when he came into the company, he purchased a huge stake, and through every quarterly report, he really speaks to shareholders, and you can really tell that he's building this company for us, guys. So if you guys are an Uber shareholder, just be patient with Uber, I would say. Before I get through all of the rest of the numbers and I talk a little bit more about some of the future prospects, I would say this is like a once in a decade opportunity We don't really see companies come around like Uber every day where they're such an integral part of our everyday life. But I'm going to talk a little bit about that more, so let's just quickly go into the numbers. So as you can see here, one of the nice things I like to see is that in 2019, 3 months ended, they almost did 2 billion trips. That's a 28% growth. Gross bookings was $18 billion. Excellent growth there. And then, as we can see here, the earnings from the rides adjusted was very, very, very nice. Of course, you know, they've been losing money, so that's one of the negative takeaways. But if we take a look here, they had over 111 million people using their platform, a 22% growth year over year. So that's excellent growth there. And then if we take a look closer into the full year numbers, we have that they did 6.9 billion trips. That is just ridiculous, guys. 6.9 billion trips. So in the Q4 they did 1.9 billion, and over the entire year they did 6.9 billion trips. Just think about that for a second. I'm not exactly sure the world population, something like 7, almost 8 billion, but Uber alone, if these numbers are correct, 6.9 billion trips. That is basically for every person in the modern world. Maybe there's like other people living in indigenous tribes or something like that. They basically, for every person on earth, Uber did one trip. That is just ridiculous, and that just tells you the global scope of Uber's reach. How often can a company say something like that? I mean, that is just nuts. So for me, Uber trading at only $40 is like a steal of a lifetime. I'm highly confident. I'm going to give you guys some of my future projection numbers on where I think Uber stock is going into the future. But I think we're going to see crazy, crazy growth. So I want to just give you guys a quick tip to that. So let's take a closer look at some of the other things. So if you can see here, we can take a look at some of their number breakdowns. So let's just take a look at this real quick. So, okay, here we go. So 3 months ended, 2000 quarterly. We have 2019 breakdown. As you can see, the breakdown, the freight has been growing. That's one of the things that I wasn't really familiar with. And Eats has been growing its fast. And like I said, rides is their bread and butter. And if we take a look at the breakdown by geographical region for this quarter, still the bulk of their revenue is coming in the United States, and that was up, United States and Canada, and that was up 41%, 31% in Latin America, 27% in Europe, Middle East and Africa, and 34% Asia Pacific. Now I want to talk a little bit about Latin America because you guys weren't aware. Uber recently had to pull out of Colombia, so the taxi drivers in Colombia were scared of Uber's massive growth and adoption, so they ended up complaining to the government, and the government ended up removing Uber from Colombia. Now, a lot of people think that that's a negative, but I think that's a positive. These government regulators and taxi companies know how powerful Uber is, and they fought so hard because Uber was about to put all the Colombian taxi drivers out of a job. So for me, Uber adapt for people shifting from traditional taxis and things like that to Uber. It's just inevitable. I mean, that is just crazy that these taxi drivers knew that Uber was going to basically put them on the streets, put them out of business. So that's how powerful this brand is. And one of the nice things I like about the Uber brand in general is it's just easy to spell. It's easy to pronounce. It's short. This is something you're really looking for when you're talking about a company that has the same clout as an Apple or Facebook or something like this. So let's just keep going through. As we see here, they also launched a new thing called Uber Comfort. So that grew a ton. And like a little Uber is they're always coming out with something new. So you really got to read these quarterly reports. Uber X, they've been growing in other markets, Argentina, Germany, Japan. Uber for Business. It's a business travel segment they have. So they have a lot of different things going on here. I don't want to go through every single one and keep this video shorter as possible for you guys. But so we can see here another thing, Jump. So they launched Jump in new markets. There's basically scooters and bikes and things like that. So for the millennials that aren't interested in riding in cars, you guys can ride bikes and things like that. They even have it in my hometown, Washington, D.C. So like I said, guys, a lot of nice things that are going on with Uber. They're really diversified in terms of transportation. And for me, I think the future of transportation, at least in the modern world, I'm not really sure about, like I said, indigenous countries, countries that aren't as developed, because those people don't have discretionary income. But for people in modernized nations, Uber is going to be the go-to method for transportation. And if Uber isn't a dominant player in that market, they're going to probably have a stake in the dominant player. So as we can see here, one of the things I do like is that it says divested India Eats business. Zomato, a popular food ad in India, acquired our food delivery business in line with our strategy to focus on marketing to achieve a leading position. So if Uber can't be the leader, they're just tapping out. And that's a really good, actually, investment strategy. It's similar to how you want to manage your portfolio. You want to ride your winners and cut your losers. So if Uber realizes they can't do well in that market, they're just going to tap out and let it go and focus on their strengths, which is a great strategy. So guys, a lot of nice numbers here, and like I said, it's just amazing number across the board. Growth is through the roof. So now I want to show you guys a recent article that I said, and I think I mentioned something about this in an earlier video about how I believe that Uber is a FANG type stock. So for me, Uber is on the same level as Facebook. It's on the same level as Google. It's on the same level as Apple, Amazon. So as you can see, Uber is ready to join the FANG group, FANG camp. It says, it's an article posted on MarketWatch. Uber Technology is ready to join the ranks of Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Alphabet. So RBC Capital Markets analyst Mark Mahaney reiterated his view that FANG-U was perhaps a better acronym for big internet companies than the traditional FANG moniker, adding Uber to the mix as the ride-hailing giant seeks to take advantage of its massive scale while working towards profitability. Uber is a global ride-share leader, becoming the global food delivery leader. So he cut his price target to $59, but he still sees more than 50% upside. So what is this? Well, basically what he's saying is that Uber is becoming a household name. So those FANG stocks, those are the stocks that a lot of the millennials, a lot of the people, younger people that are going to be taking over society in the future, these are what you see. So they're on their Facebook account. They're buying stuff on Amazon. They're going home and watching Netflix, and when they go on the internet, they search Google. So what are they going to do when they're getting around Washington, D.C.? What are they going to do when they're getting around New York? How are they going to get around? Uber. So, as fewer people are buying cars, Uber is kind of a great addition to that FANG group. So now, guys, I want to tell you about where I think Uber stock is going in the future. So first, let's take a look at the one-year chart. For you guys that aren't really familiar with Uber stock, Uber IPO'd last year in May. It IPO'd at around $45 per share. The stock was beaten down all the way down to November 14th because they weren't profitable. And then there was some insider buying right around here. I believe the CEO picked up a ton of shares, and then the stock started rallying ever since that. So insider buying, a very, very bullish signal. But I want to show you guys that right there so you can kind of get a visualization of that. I just wanted to pull that up so I could show you guys exactly what the catalyst was for the stock. So here we go. On November 18, 2019, the CEO purchased Direct Market. So this is a very bullish signal. So we know a lot of these CEOs have stock options, but when they're buying on the direct market, just like you or me, just like a normal shareholder, that is an extremely bullish. So the CEO, he picked up 250,000 shares in the direct market at $26.75. So that was the stock right there. That was a huge signal. And insider trading, I've seen a lot of these stocks where CEOs pick up shares. He bought shares right here, November 18th, and that was the bottom. So after he picked up those 250,000 shares, this stock just, boom, took off after that. So where do I think Uber stock is going in the future? So in my opinion, Uber is so big, it's so powerful, it has so many different businesses, it's really putting its mark in not just transportation, but food delivery. For me, I can definitely see putting Uber as $1 trillion company in the future. So here's what I did. I did some quick math. So I just simply figured out, what the market cap of Uber was. So all we have to do is just type this in. You could just type in Uber market cap. So let's see here. So let's get the exact market cap what it's trading at exactly right now. So according to Google, Uber has a market cap of 69 billion. I want to double check this number on Yahoo Finance. I know sometimes on Robinhood the numbers aren't exact, especially because the stock ran up so much yesterday. So I'm sorry, numbers. Let's see here. Okay, yes, $69 billion market cap. So these FANG stocks, stocks like Facebook, stocks like Amazon, Apple, all of these stocks hit $1 trillion, and most of them are going to continue to go because, 10 years ago, if people had said, oh, these stocks are going to be $1 trillion, everyone would have said that's too much. But, as the Fed continues to print money, earnings are going to continue to increase. People are going to continue having babies. There's just going to be more people on the planet. So as population grows and wages grow, these companies will continue to make more and more and more money. And that's what we're kind of seeing, 20 years ago. $1 million was considered a lot of money. Now, if you get $1 million, it's still a lot of money, but you can't buy as much as you could. So what that means is that we're going to continue to see more and more companies in the next 10 years hit the $1 trillion mark. I believe Uber is one of those companies. So if we just do some simple math here, we can see that if Uber were to trade at, let's see here, I actually already did the math earlier. So here we go. So if Uber were to trade at $1 trillion, so that's 12 zeros, a lot of zeros. So that's $1 trillion, and it's currently trading at 63 billion. That means the shares would increase 15 times. So currently the stock's at $40. If I were to use that same math, I would just multiply that times the current share price, $644. So that means that my future price target, because for me, if it's going to be considered a FANG stock, that means it's going to be pushing towards $1 trillion in the future. My future target price is around maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, probably closer to 10 years. This might take a while for them to continue to grow and grow and grow. But $644. So we're going to show you guys some quick math. Let's say if this stock goes up 15 times, if you put in $1,000, could turn your $1,000 into $15,000. But the nice thing about this is that you can do the same thing trading options and stuff like that. But this is very more of a passive thing. And for me, so my game plan for this is I have to be consistent. I don't want to miss Uber. I missed out on Apple. I missed out on Amazon. It was funny because I was actually selling stuff on Amazon when I was a teenager. I was selling textbooks and stuff like that. I was selling on half.com, and I was selling calculators and stuff like that when I was young. And I was even using Apple. I had an iPod, and I missed it. I wasn't looking around my own life and buying the stocks of the companies that I was using. I was just being I don't know. My eyes weren't really open. So with this Uber, I use this thing every day. So for me, I'm not missing this. So for my game plan for Uber is to buy shares every month. Buy as many shares as I can, but make this a monthly thing. Because I was reading some books, guys, and one of the things they were talking about was that some of the millionaires and very successful people, they develop good habits, but they develop good monthly habits. So it's not like you have to go buy Uber stock every day or every week, but as long as you're acquiring shares every month, and that's for any company you want to build a position in, it's much far better for you to buy shares every month than to buy just once and forget it. Because obviously, if you buy it once and you do nothing, you're able to earn money on shares. But what if you, instead of, you bought initially, but you also continue to add to the position? So what that's going to do is that's going to compound your money so much faster, because now your position is growing like a weed. So let's say eventually, so let's have two examples, right? Let's say one person buys like 1,000 shares of Uber and does nothing. So they have a $40,000 investment. Well, that's pretty good. So let's just do the quick numbers and explain what I'm talking about. So let's say somebody buys 1,000 shares of Uber right now. Okay, times, let's say around $40, something like that, to keep the numbers pretty easy. Okay, so they buy 1,000 shares of Uber right now. Boom, they're a $40,000 investment. If that investment grows 15 times, Uber grows into $1 trillion company, they're going to have $600,000. That's amazing, guys. That's a ridiculous return on investment. You can retire on that money in a lot of countries outside of the United States. You guys can retire in Latin America, Asia, Africa, a lot of places on that money. You know, just living off of your dividends. You can take that money, you can put it into something more conservative, or you could just simply slowly shell off shares, something like that. And by that time, that's another thing that is so attractive about Uber, because perhaps Uber pays a dividend in the future, kind of like what Apple did. People kept knocking down Apple stock. Next, you know, they started paying a dividend, and it was a game changer. So, but let's use another example. Let's say you buy 1,000 shares of Uber initially, but in every month, let's say you also purchase. Let's say you just purchase, let's say you put another 10 shares, right? So you buy 1,000 shares up front, then you buy an additional 10 shares a month, okay? So the first person started with 1,000 shares, and you're doing an extra 10 shares. So then you're doing 10,000, and you're doing an extra 10 shares per month, 120, plus the initial 1,000 you purchased. So at the end of the first year, you're going to have 1,120 because you're acquiring an additional 120 shares. So after 5 years, just on the initial purchase, you're going to have 1,000 plus 1,200 per year times just over 5 years. So that's going to give you now 1,600 shares, all because you just bought 10 extra shares per month. You know, just like $400 a month. A lot of ways you can find an extra $400 a month. You can downsize to a smaller apartment. You can pick up a side hustle. You can start a blog. You can do a YouTube channel. You can shovel snow, mow lawns. You can work overtime at your job. There's a lot of ways you can pick up an extra $400 a month. So now after 5 years, the first person has 1,000 shares. Now you have 1,600 shares. So now your 1,600 shares times 40 times 15. Now your 1,600 shares are worth almost $1 million. So, and that's assuming, obviously, I don't expect Uber stock price to stay $40, but that's just the power of not just buying once, but buying every month, because the position starts to grow like a weed, and then now, as the stock price continues to rise, assuming it does, it's going to ebb and flow. But that's another quick tip, guys. Trying to add to your position every month so you really, really, really can grow your wealth even faster. So that's it for guys. I hope you enjoyed this video on Uber. You know, so right now I'm currently sitting at, show you guys real quick. Right now I'm currently sitting at 15 shares of Uber, and I'm using this strategy as well to grow my position. I'm at an average cost basis of $35.97. So I plan to grow this position a ton over time. So be prepared for more videos on Uber as my goal. My goal right now is my goal is 1,000 shares of Uber. So using the same example that I used, that's my goal right now. My goal is to get there as soon as possible, hopefully by the end of the year. So guys, follow along. If you enjoyed this video, please smash the subscribe button and give me a thumbs up onto my journey to 1,000 shares of Uber. And let me know what you think in the comments. Are you buying Uber stock? Or are you selling it? Did you like the quarterly report? What are your thoughts here? I'm really interested in what you guys have to say. So that's it for now, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video, and take care.